Here's Johnny!
Some of the most iconic performances in movies come from actors who took their role way beyond the script. Rather than just playing the character, they truly become them. So many of the best performances just happen to be when actors almost seem to go insane in their roles. From Jack Nicholson in The Shining to Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, we're going to explore times when actors went truly insane on the silver screen. Let's dive in. There's numerous ways we've seen insanity play out in movies. You have films like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and 12 Monkeys that show the idea of being insane within a mental institution. The location these films are set in play into exploring the minds of insane individuals. This can occur due to an endless amount of factors, such as the evil forces of the Overlook Hotel in The Shining that slowly drive Jack insane, or 10 Cloverfield Lane, where we see John Goodman on edge from the start due to his past and his knowledge of events taking place in the current moment. Similar to Jack, Howard, played by John Goodman, slowly slips further and further into insanity and becomes the monster he's supposedly protecting everyone from. All of these films explore the idea of insanity, but the location and external factors around the characters transform their minds in different ways. The way a character's insanity is shown and expressed also differs in tons of different ways. It can be explosive and in your face, such as in The Dark Knight, where we see the Joker who's insane from the start. He seems to lack any rational thought and is strictly focused on pure chaos. He is loud and open with his thoughts, often playing mind games with other characters. Another great example of this is in Sexy Beast. Don Logan might be even more intense than the Joker in some ways. He is completely unhinged, has no remorse, and is self-righteous. Every time he's on screen, he's absolutely terrifying to watch, because you never know what he might do next. We even see the other characters in the film nervous that he might be paying them a visit. He's so insane that the pure thought of him coming to visit makes everyone else uneasy. On the other hand, you have a character like Hannibal Lecter, played by Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. He's way more subtle, and this almost makes him even more disturbing. He's not aggressive or loud, but rather calm and soft-spoken. This takes the audience by surprise because he doesn't come off as a threat and instead blends in with society. He could be walking alongside us on the street and we wouldn't even know how dangerous and violent he was. Like other insane characters, he loves a good mind game and is great at manipulating people. The subtlety of his character is very unnerving. The differences in these characters make them unique and show the wide range of ways one can be insane. Sometimes it's obvious, and other times it's almost impossible to see until it's too late. I've mentioned some great performances already, but let's explore a few of them a little deeper and see what made them stand out from the others. In 1980, The Shining released, and Jack Nicholson set a new precedent for how an insane character can be played. The funny thing is, upon the film's initial release, critics weren't a fan of it. They thought the characters lacked connection and that overall it was a poor adaptation of Stephen King's novel. These thoughts of the film didn't last very long though, and it's now recognized as one of the most iconic horror films ever created. The main character in the film isn't Jack, but rather the Overlook Hotel. The characters are tiny in comparison, which is one of the reasons Jack Nicholson's performance needed to be loud and explosive. He's very animated throughout the film and is extremely expressive physically. This adds a layer to his character and also plays up the craziness of him. As Jack becomes more and more insane, he also does a lot of staring, and if you pay close attention, he doesn't blink much, which adds to his very unsettling nature. All the physical attributes we see in Jack play a crucial part in showing the audience how unhinged he really is. Jack isn't crazy when we first meet him in the film, and his descent into madness progresses slowly, so each time we see him, he becomes more on edge, aggressive, and much louder. There's also an odd amount of playfulness in his character. He's often seen smiling, laughing, and having a good time as he causes chaos and goes after his victims. This behavior mixed with the aggressiveness comes together to create one of the greatest insane character performances of all time. Kathy Bates' performance as Annie Wilkes in Misery is another fantastic example of a crazy character. The setting and structure of the film make for a very interesting way to explore the mind of someone who's a little nuts, to say the least. The majority of the film takes place in a house, and there's only two characters for most of the film, Annie Wilkes and Paul Sheldon. Annie rescues Paul, a famous novelist, after he crashes his car in the snow, and she claims to be his biggest fan. This premise makes for a rather tough role because it could easily be overdone and come off really silly, but Kathy Bates nails it the whole way through. Bates' approach is rather fascinating because she plays Annie almost like a child to show the sensitive side to her, but on the other hand, she also gets extremely cold and aggressive. These two sides of her collide perfectly to make a very terrifying character and one that's almost impossible to predict. At any moment, she could snap and get very angry. Another interesting aspect of Annie is how obsessive she is of Paul. She constantly stares at him and views herself as his protector, doing anything she needs in order to keep him there and doing the things she wants him to do. She's a very manipulative individual, using threats, fear, and gaslighting mixed with some charm to really get into Paul's head. All of these characteristics mixed with the fact that she's also physically intimidating and is willing to lash out so casually all come together to create a uniquely insane character. We can't talk about insanity in movies without talking about Heath Ledger as the Joker in The Dark Knight. This role is a little different for a number of reasons. First off, Ledger had the task of taking an already iconic character and putting his own spin on things, which he not only achieved but surpassed and created a whole new version of the Joker that became iconic in its own way. Ledger didn't just play the Joker, he became him. From deciding what he would wear, how he would act, to little mannerisms that he had, and even putting on his own makeup. He took things even further by locking himself in a hotel room for a month before filming the movie. This allowed Ledger to truly experience isolation and also get into the mind of the Joker. It absolutely paid off and shows on the silver screen. The Joker is so distinguishable even when you can't see his face. Take the bank robbery scene as an example. He has a mask on, but just by viewing his body language and movement, we know who's under there. Every little detail and characteristic adds a layer to him that's unique and unsettling. When it comes to the insanity of the character, the Joker absolutely loves chaos, and he's not afraid to watch the world burn. What's even more interesting is that as much as he loves chaos, he really wants control and to be able to manipulate. He simply uses chaos to achieve these things. As crazy as he is, he's also very smart, which is almost even scarier. He knows how to get into people's minds and trick them into doing terrible things, while also convincing the people he controls that they're really performing those actions for themselves. It's both dark and genius all at the same time. This is what really sets the Joker apart from other characters we've talked about. He's absolutely violent, loud, and chaotic like the others, but the way he controls and manipulates people is unmatched. Just look at the scenes in the film where he explains how he got his scars. Every time he tells the story, it's different. Not because he's forgetful or his mind is all over the place, but instead he changes it depending on who he's talking to so that he can manipulate them using the story. The cleverness of the Joker mixed with his insane nature is fascinating. He's not afraid of danger, he enjoys manipulating people, loves chaos, is cruel, but also passionate, playful, and smart. It's all of these different characteristics combined with Heath Ledger's approach and details he gave the character that make this version of the Joker so iconic, powerful, and one of, if not the greatest performance of all time. Taking on the task of creating and playing an insane character is not an easy one. A role like this can easily become over the top or not crazy enough. However, as we've explored in this video, it has been achieved numerous times and each great performance is unique in its own way. There's so many different directions and avenues to explore the idea of insanity, and the best examples often come from actors who took their roles beyond the script and made the character believable and real. From Jack in The Shining, who's very expressive physically, to the Joker in The Dark Knight, who's chaotic but a genius at the same time, this wide spectrum of characteristics and ideas is what makes the audience so intrigued by these types of characters. There's tons of other great examples that I didn't get to include in this video, so let me know what some of your favorite performances are from other films in the comments below. I'm looking forward to reading your comments, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like and consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.